So it's time for another unboxing and tech review, and this is a DBPower Sports HD DV camera. It films at full 1080p and boasts water resistance to 30 meters. Now, as you can see in the box, apart from the normal destructions, you get tons and tons of accessories with them. Too many for me to go through, but you've got everything from cable ties, clips, mounts, you name it, it's there for you to get started. But the real star of the show is the actual camera itself. Now, this is a sub £50 or sub $50 camera. It looks like a GoPro, but it's not a GoPro. It's significantly cheaper. You can see here the camera in its waterproof housing. Now, surprisingly, the camera is quite good quality. It even boasts this small LCD screen on the back, which helps you frame your shots on the go. Really useful. Now, these are the accessories. I've laid them all out here. You even get a spare battery cover. Out of its case, it looks pretty much like a GoPro. Except it does, as I said earlier, have that handy LCD screen. So I went for a ride on my bike to see what this would be like, and I particularly went over some, well, rough ground to see how it handles. Now, the image stabilization I wouldn't say is excellent, but the image quality is certainly not unwatchable. I did take it over some rough ground. After a couple of attempts, I'd realized that I had accidentally not set the camera at recording, so I had to go and do it again. For a biker like me, that wasn't too much of a disappointment. So it does have these mounts. It's an adhesive one here, and I went thumping around in the undergrowth earlier and it seemed to hold quite well. It also has this other type of mount here. You have a whole plethora of accessories. Now, when I took this camera out earlier on my bike, I had an experience where I saw colobus monkeys. I quickly took the camera off and started to do a commentary. Now, I have to admit, I'm not overly impressed by the quality of the image, and I've gone and done and changed some of the settings for which I'm now feeling on now. I did set it to HDR mode, and I did this take a little earlier this morning, and you can see there's this weird artifacting on here. I'm hoping the fact that I've switched HDR mode off, that it will solve some of that weird artifacting. For a sub $50 camera, I'm quite impressed. Many of us, myself included, can't go out and drop a couple of $100 on a GoPro or something like this, and we look to these Chinese manufactured cameras to be the answer to our filming needs. And I'm not disappointed so far. It might even cause me to go and buy a few extra cameras in the future. So, what is my verdict? Well, if you can afford to buy a GoPro, buy a GoPro. But this has a little LCD on the back. I can frame my shots. It has a nice wide-angle fish lens, which I'm filming on now, and it's just a good all-round cheap camera. So when I took the footage to my editing suite, I noticed a couple of things when I was pulling it all together. Firstly, an additional thing about the audio. When I was listening back to the audio, I heard this strange digital swishing sound that is just faintly there, and you can probably hear it in some of the earlier takes. The second thing was the digital zoom. It's not very good, and if you go back to that colobus monkey footage, you'll notice that it gets pretty grainy and pretty wobbly. So I wouldn't use the zoom on this, and as you can see, the image stabilization isn't great, but again, for a cheap camera, I can't complain. Look, I'm looking forward to adding this to my video recording arsenal. It's going to be used for all sorts of things, on my motorbike, on my car, possibly even in a light aircraft. So, why don't you give it a go? I don't think you'll be too disappointed. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate and subscribe, and as always, have one on me.